Can't decide between battleship and aircraft carrier? Why not both? Yeah, the idea of a battleship aircraft carrier hybrid is something that pops up from time to time. Whether that means just sticking some gun turrets and missiles onto a carrier, or retrofitting an Iowa-class battleship with a flight deck for Harrier jump jets. But it goes back as far as the 1930s with various hypothetical designs. Of course, this was a time when the advantages of carrier versus battleship were being hotly debated. So why not just have the best of both worlds? During World War II, the Japanese converted the Issei-class battleships into hybrid carriers. This really just reflected that they'd underestimated the importance of carriers over battleships, and that they really needed to replace the carriers they'd lost at Midway. The ships had their 2 rear gun turrets removed to install a flight deck and catapult, to operate a small air group of dive bombers and reconnaissance planes. But due to a shortage of aircraft and pilots, they never actually performed this battle carrier role. Probably the closest thing to a real battle carrier that was actually built is the Soviet Kiev class, officially a heavy aviation cruiser or heavy aircraft cruiser in Soviet nomenclature. It's both a kind of medium-sized carrier with up to 30 aircraft, and a cruiser with long-range heavy missiles and dual-purpose guns. In addition to all its close-in defensive armament, only one of these things remains in service in heavily modified form as the Indian Navy's Vikramaditya. Kinda went back to just being a normal carrier. Now, there were plans to modify the reactivated Iowa-class battleships in the 1980s, and essentially turn them into hybrid battleship carriers. One concept, known as the Interdiction assault ship, proposed removing the rearmost turret to make room for a flight deck and 12 AV-8B Harrier IIs. Obviously, this never came to pass, but what do you think? Were battle carriers ever a good idea? Ultimately, I think it was for the best that battleships and aircraft carriers stayed in their lanes for the most part. I don't really buy the idea that a warship can be a kind of all-in-one supership that's equally great at doing everything. It's just not practical, you know, defined roles exist for a reason. Still doesn't stop every big sci-fi spaceship from being the ultimate star dreadnought covered in gun turrets, while also having room for huge hangar bays and like a million fighters. Follow for more.